Welcome to the Magic of Positive Thinking, a podcast hosted by Norb Svanascini, founder of AmericanEagle.com, and writer Al Edwards. Norb, we're back on the mic again. How you doing today?
Wonderful. Thank God every day for this gift he gives us. That's what we call it, a present. It's a wonderful day and, just another opportunity.
It sure is. I really try and apply some of the things we talk about to my own life in a very conscious way. And quite a few times in the last few months when it's been a bright, beautiful day, regardless, spring, summer, winter, I will literally stop on my way to walking to the car or walking into work. And I will look around and I'll say, my God, what a beautiful day it is.
Yeah, it really is interesting because right now it's mid-March, which usually is still pretty cold and it's very mild. And yesterday the flowers were actually blooming, and little tiny little flowers that pop up from the grass that they're little purple. I don't even know what they are. I don't really know much about flowers except the rose but the interesting part is that we've talked about the positiveness of plants and how they will come up on spring. It
Right.
doesn't matter. I love old movies, and one of them that's really, really interesting is My Fair Lady with Rex Harrison. And there's a great song about England will still be here, and spring will be here. And, when you look at that attitude, yeah, we really, we have to really enjoy ourselves and just accept these things that come every spring. The flowers will bloom. I don't care what you do. I don't care what anybody does. That flower's going to pop out of the ground.
Right.
And if you look at it and admire this wonder that we live in, it's really beautiful. It really is.
And as we talked about, and this is our 27th show, friends. So this is going way back to 8, 9, or 10. We had a long conversation about that beautiful little flower will pop out of the crack in the sidewalk or in the dirtiest, filthiest alley. It doesn't care. It's going to do its best no matter where it is.
Exactly. And it's programmed to do so. And again, we always talk about the difference between animals and humans. Animals are robots. Plants are robots. They will do it. If we want to be like that flower and actually really grow, we have to program our minds. And this is
Absolutely.
the only way to do it is by thinking positively.
Absolutely. Well, friends, we have a very exciting show today because I think we came up with kind of a fun little exercise that we're going to do. The title of today's show is If You Can Drive a Car, You Can Be Successful at Life. And I spend a lot of time driving my car. You'd think I'd be more successful all the times that I've driven my car, Norb, when I live in Sandwich, Illinois.
Right.
But it occurred to me, this kind of a crazy thought, that the steps that it takes to drive and successfully go somewhere is really a great analogy of how to live life, to how to be successful in life. And in our last podcast, we were talking about success from Earl Nightingale. The strangest secret is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So when we talk about success, we're talking about progressively on the road to trying to achieve something you want to do, whether it be money, music, degree, family, love, whatever it happens to be. You can define success yourself.
Yeah, and driving a car, when you think about it, it's in the human experience, it's a very, very short time that we've had that luxury, and we take things for granted. One of the things that I think that car analogy, which is interesting, is that you have to plan where you're going to go.
Right.
If you want to go to school and you can drive. The first thing I did when I was 16 is get a license, and I I think I lived like 4 blocks from the school, high school, but I drove there because
Right.
I was so happy. And you know, we live in an era which is just incredible. And you know, we have to appreciate the things we have. For example, you get in a car today, and you know, obviously every car has heat. Just about every car today has air conditioning, automatic transmission. It you're comfortable in it. You listen to the radio, which is something that you know people didn't have 100 and some years ago, and you can pick your stations, of multitude of stations. And then if you have, you know, an iPhone, you can sync your music to what you like. So basically, the world is begging for you to program yourself. They're
Right.
begging it because you
Right.
know. You know, I visited Monticello, which was the home of Thomas Jefferson, which is just a incredible thing. If you've never been there, I recommend it. Take a trip there. And Thomas Jefferson had a huge home, and you know, whenever he had people visiting him, he didn't know they were coming, and he didn't know whether going to be 3 people or 100.
Really?
Yeah, so he had to be ready to accommodate all these people and their sleeping quarters, and also where the horses were going to be,
Hmm.
and how much food they had to have. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, can you think of this? This is the president of the United States, which at that time was an important country, was growing tremendously. He
Hmm.
just bought the Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon, and the place was incredible. He just wrote, you know, not only the Declaration of Independence, but the Constitution, and this was a heck of a guy, and he didn't know, you know, when people were going to visit
Hmm.
him, because there was no radio, there was no telegraph. All these things were invented in this country because they created a country where people could express what they wanted, the goals they wanted, you know, the telegraph,
Right.
just about every important invention. It sounds crazy, but the modern ones came out of this country just because of that. So, you know, I've always thought about bringing Jefferson back, and he wouldn't understand what a car was. He
Mm.
wouldn't understand what a radio
Right.
was. He
Right.
wouldn't understand plastic. I mean, it's just incredible the progress we have. And this might sound really cornball, but I can't stop thinking about how wonderful this world is and the advancements we have today. Because when you get in a car, you know, like Al says, you're actually getting into something that is just revolutionary. That when you take the 20,000 years of humanity, this has only been known the last 100 years.
Right.
I mean, this is incredible. We live in this incredible time, and if there's probably anything more than the wonder of our time, is the negativity that what I call the idiots of society have. That's all they can talk about, you know, the
Right.
negative part, instead of being thankful that they don't have to feed 50 horses when somebody comes to visit you, you know. And Thomas Jefferson had that to do, and it's just incredible.
It is incredible, and
Uh,
you know, we're talking about cars. I do have to tell you this about gratitude and how lucky we are in the modern world. So, I had a recent opportunity to ride in a car that was uh, almost 100 years old, and this particular car has no windows. It's called an open car, so it has a windshield and a roof, but no windows, completely open. And I was riding in this car, and this car is fun to ride in, but it bounces and squeaks, and you feel every bump. And if it's cold outside, the cold wind is coming at you, and the wind in your face is eventually exhausting. And it's just, you feel like you're frazzled by the time you get out of this car. But at the time, it was a hell of a lot better than a horse.
right.
So I get out of this car and I get into my Toyota Camry and I close the windows and it is silent as I go 80 miles an hour down the highway, and I turn on the heater and it warms up, or I go in the summer and it cools down from air conditioning. And I had this little device called an iPhone, and there's something called Bluetooth, and magically this iPhone sound goes into my speakers, and I'm the king of the world. Where 100 years ago, I was being bounced all over the place with this car, and today this silent, perfect machine just goes down the road. We are the luckiest people in the world to be alive when we are today.
Yeah, and this is the one thing about being positive that it's very fundamental. Appreciate all this stuff. Say, my God, this is incredible. My father grew up in an era where the radio was just started. And for people that don't know about the beginnings of radio, it was a crystal that actually tuned to a particular frequency, and you actually had to wear a headset to listen to the radio, and you could only listen to that one frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And today, I don't know how many radio stations there are, but I mean, the variety is just beyond belief. And obviously, with the iPhone and Bluetooth now, you actually program yourself. And this is something we talked about too. Do program yourself. Listen to good stuff in the morning. Al talks that he doesn't listen to any news, and I actually, I'm very proud that he does that. I wish I could, not look at news, but I do, not a lot, but I do. And there's so much negativity today in the world and the news media that is just really harmful for society, I think, because nobody talks about what we're talking about
right.
enjoying that car,
right,
and enjoying that you don't have to have all these horses around. And not that I'm against horses, by the way, but they are more of a problem than a car.
Well, they do things that cars don't do.
Exactly.
That you have to worry about.
Yeah. Right.
Particularly if you're walking around.
Exactly. So, it's just, again, just appreciate that. And you go home and you have heating and air conditioning and
a refrigerator
with food and it's just incredible. And this might sound really corny, but I really get excited about that. I said, wow, this is something, and the beauty of this, and this is probably the most important part. Every one of those inventions, every one of them was done by someone who set a goal to find it and do it. And with all these little inventions, they're all put together. That automobile that Al's talking about, the cars didn't have heaters before. They used to be extra. The windshield wiper was a revolutionary thing. They used to actually do it by hand, and then the electric. And every one of those, this person had a goal. They pursued that goal. They had a vision. And it goes back to the strangest secret, and Al does it perfect.
You become what you think about.
No, but also the pursuit of
success is the progressive realization of a worthy
ideal. Right. And
yeah.
It's true. So every one of these inventions, every one of them had a positive thought pattern to achieve it.
Right.
And you could not live today the way you are living without this incredible positive thinking approach that the United States had. And we got to get back to that, because that's the solution, people. Think positively. Think positively. Good stuff happens.
Absolutely. And by the way, if we can crow about this for a moment, most of those incredible inventions that we talked about were invented by Americans. Now, I know the automobile had its origins in Germany with Daimler and some of these other guys, but guess what, friends? Henry Ford was not German or European. Thomas Edison was American. Mr. Carrier, who invented the air conditioner, was American. a lot of the things we love and are comforted by today were invented by Americans.
And the only difference between Americans and Europeans was that when they came to this country, they weren't handicapped with these negative thoughts of locking these people in this the space that they had in society in Europe that they could never break away from. So that was the most positive thing that happened to this country. The same people, I mean, this guy that was born in Germany or Yugoslavia or Britain or Spain, he came to this country or she came to this country and they did whatever they wanted to because they had a goal in mind and they didn't have this social restriction. And I think that one of the dangers that we're encountering in this country is that we're getting back into social restrictions. We're being told, you can't do this and you can't do that because somebody might get offended. And somebody goes, well, you know what? People get offended all the time. I mean, what the heck? I had really big feet when I was a little kid, and there was a very famous clown. And
Clarabelle?
No, not Clarabelle.
Bozo?
No, a real famous clown. But they used to call me, the name of that clown because I had big feet. And today I think that they would send the person to jail or some psychiatrist to find out why would you say that. But you know what? Actually, my feet are pretty average now. I mean, and I survived it.
You grew into your feet, basically.
I grew into my feet. My feet were, and you know what? That's negative. But before it wasn't considered negativity, which is something we all have something odd about us, okay? All of us.
Right.
And people today get offended if they're just mentioned. You got a big nose, you got big ears, you got this. Well, so what? We're all different.
Right.
We all got something goofy about them.
Exactly. I love that. Well, as usual, we have our perfect segue to our topic today. So let's get in our cars, friends, and talking about cars and be successful in life. So let's start out of how we get into a car. What's the first thing we do when we're getting ready to go somewhere in our car? We prepare and plan. We prepare our cars. We put gas in them or plug them in if you have a Tesla or whatever it happens to be. You make sure there's air in the tires and you get ready for this journey. And that's planning your life of planning on getting an idea of what you want to do is no different than putting gas in your car and filling up your tires.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this, Al and I are very proud that we never know what we're going to talk about, but what I'm thinking about is just, I'm going to be a negative guy getting into a car now. Just think of this. Oh my God, I hope I don't fall and trip before I reach the door of that car. And when I get into that car, oh my God, I hope that I don't have an accident. And if I have an accident, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? They're probably going to take me to a hospital if it's really bad. And then I have to call my wife or whoever. And then, I wonder if I'm going to get a good doctor. And I wonder if that hospital have, a hospital room that is ready and I won't have to be in an aisle and oh my God, what am I going? What about if my engine is sputtering and it won't make it? Oh my God, what am I going to do? I better not go.
You haven't even left the driveway.
I haven't left the driveway, but I'm not going to get into that car because of all the stuff that's going to happen to me. And that, boys and girls, is what life is about. We get in that car because we have an optimistic approach that we will get there. Okay. Now, unluckily, there are some people that do have accidents, and sometimes the car doesn't start. And you know what? That's it. I mean, we've all had it. I had a couple of blows. I hit a pothole one time a few months ago, and I blew 2 tires.
Wow.
2 in one shot. I took care of it. The tow truck came and he took me to the garage and they had to order the tires. I had to rent a car to go on the trip. You know what? That's life.
It was okay.
It was okay.
Yeah.
And you know, I met a good guy at a station. He ordered the tires for me, and you know, so what? So I rented a car. They gave me a minivan. That's all they had, and you know, it was okay. I had an experience of riding in a minivan. So
and it probably rode really smoothly, right? And
yeah, and it was nice. You know, it didn't. And people would say, "Oh my God, where'd you get that minivan?" Well, because I blew 2 tires. You know, so you can't go through life thinking about the negative things. And you know, one thing that I wanted to mention is one of the keys is that today we have such a division in the country with people that, you know, are the sky is falling. You know, who was that?
Chicken Little.
Chicken Little, yeah. If you haven't heard about Chicken Little, but Chicken Little is really a tale of a little chicken that she saw some apples falling from a tree, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she was running around saying, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And today we actually have an incredible high percentage of people that are Chicken Littles. Okay? Man, they worry about everything. So the one thing that I can tell you, and believe me, if you get one thing from this, stay away from these people. Just run away from them because they will ruin your life. So that's one of the things about being positive is stay away. You know, Al and I feed off of each other being positive. We laugh. We tell jokes. We talk about movies. He sends me skits, YouTube with Johnny Carson and some of the old comics, and we laugh like crazy. And we do this not because we but it creates happiness, you know.
Absolutely.
And why not? Why be miserable? Why am I going to call them and say, God, are you sure you're going to get the sandwich today? You know, you get enough gas. Aren't you worried about the car? Some trucker will cut you off,
run you off the road.
And you know, yeah, it could happen. But why should we dwell on this? Dwell on the good stuff.
So when we're getting in our cars in the morning, friends, we have a faith and an optimism that we're going to get a natural, we don't even think about it. It's subconscious. We know we're going to get to where we have a childlike faith that we're going to get to where we want to go. And that's the same philosophy we need to have in our own lives, the same way with this car, right? And by the way,
without a doubt,
today we have Kentucky Fried Chicken Little, which is a great thing.
Oh, so. Yeah. No, it's kind of funny to think about Chicken Little because there's a lot of people that I know that I actually use that term for him, that he's a Chicken Little guy, you know, everything's bad. It's going to happen, you know, which is it's really kind of funny, but it's true. I mean, they're just walking around worrying about stuff. You know, there's a great book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, which is a great book. I highly recommend it. Dale Carnegie. It's also like 70, 80 years old. And, you know, some of this stuff is precious. It's like diamonds. You know, they're diamonds. They don't age. They're
timeless.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And 95 to 98% of the stuff you worry about never happens. Never happens, people. Wake up. I mean, this is incredible. It really is incredible. So why worry about that the car, you know, the air conditioning is going to break down? Oh, my God, what am I going to do if it's hot? Well, it's hot. You're going to sweat. Big deal. You know, maybe it's good for you. So, you know, just be happy about it. Be positive.
I don't think a lot of young people have ever heard of Chicken Little. So Norb and I am announcing this officially. Norb and I are going to start a new bumper sticker campaign. Bring back Chicken Little. Save Chicken Little. So, and that brings us to our next point, friends, about getting in your car. When we all get in our cars, we have a goal. And the goal is to get to work here in Des Plaines or in Lisle or your church or your school or your friend's house. And not only do we have a goal, but we know how to get there, whether it's through GPS or we just know it by heart. we have a goal and we know how to get there. And how is that different from life, Norb? It's no different.
No. That's what life is. You're supposed to do things, and you do it, and if you do it right, and you look at it like, wow, this is really interesting. I'm alive. I have this opportunity to enjoy the day, the months, the years, and it's no different. It's really, we basically are like an automobile.
Yeah.
And we have to put the right gas in it, and keep it well oiled. We eat, and we have exhaust, and it's just a vehicle. Our body is our vehicle, and what you feed it will give you back exactly that. I mean, if you mistreat your car, it won't last long. If you mistreat your mind, you might age, but your mind will be destroyed by the negativity. You'll never be happy.
So whether it's our cars or our bodies or our minds, if you have a goal and know how to get there, it's no different from jumping in your car and going down the highway. Life is the same principle, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
So the next steps, as we all have encountered, is traffic jams, accidents, detours, potholes. These are analogous to all the obstacles that we encounter in life when we're going after things that we want to do or things we're trying to achieve. And what do we do when we're driving in our cars? We see a detour sign, we take the detour. Traffic builds up, so maybe our GPS will even tell us to get off and go where to go. We get a flat tire. As Norb said, he blew out 2 tires. He called the tow truck, got it done, got back on the road in his minivan. Staying committed to staying on the journey, and adjusting upon encountering obstacles. Nobody gets in their car and sees a detour sign and says, oh, that's it, I'm going home. Forget it, I'm done. Nobody does that. So why should we do that in life?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And it's what we talk about is very simple to do. And, we've talked about before about being negative. It's also just part of life, and we all are. We get down. I've driven for many, many, many years, and I've had, unluckily, a couple of accidents, and I've had a lot of flat tires, and I've had, transmission problems. And you know what? Thinking back about it wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
Now, obviously, there are some fatal accidents and stuff like that, which are very grave and horrible. That's just part of life. I mean, I always remember there was a couple of ladies driving around in downtown Chicago, and there was a storm, and a glass pane came off a building and killed both of them when they were in their car. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Just a freak accident.
Just a total freak. And, that's part of life. I mean, expect to have problems. It's just how you overcome that problem. I have a very dear friend. I mean, a real dear friend that has been incapacitated the last 6 months in a hospital because all of a sudden his legs stopped working. And he's in a wheelchair today. And we talk maybe once every 2 weeks or so. And he's one of the most positive guys I've ever met because he is going to walk again. And he, therapy tells him he's got to do therapy 2 hours a day, and he does 4 hours a day. And he's getting feeling back in his legs. And next week I'm going to go take him out. He's in a wheelchair. I'm going to put him in the car, and we're going to go to lunch. And his attitude is just incredible. And we're talking about. I said, how many people? Because he's in a area of the hospital which has a lot of similar type of people with problems.
Right.
And I said, how many people do you talk to that are as positive as you? And he says, only one other guy. And most of them are just defeated.
Right.
Just
right.
And again, life does have really bad moments, and you just got to keep going.
And, it's easy to be positive when things are going well, but when things really bad happen, you just cannot admire and respect these people enough who really apply the positive attitude when things are really down.
Yeah, in fact, I think we're going to have a program in the future where we're going to talk about these cases of overcoming handicaps, which whatever you have, we're going to pick some of the worst, crummiest things you could ever think of and how people recover.
Have overcome from
and just its attitude and thinking positively.
And that goes back to driving our cars. We encounter obstacles. We just don't fall off the road and cry and go home. We adjust our speed, we adjust the roads we're taking, but we are hell-bent on getting to the grocery store or grandma's house or wherever we're going. We just have to have that same attitude about life. And the last principle of driving our cars, friends, that I think we should apply to life, everyone who gets in their car, when the moment they leave their driveway, they see themselves arriving at the grocery store or at church or at Norb's house or Al's house in Sandwich or whatever it is. You see yourself doing it. And if you don't think that's powerful and makes a difference in getting it done, you got a lot to think about. And life is no different.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we've all done this. Is we've always driven, let's say, to the grocery store, okay, and you drive, let's say, 20 blocks. Let's just take that. And you just do it. You program yourself and you do it. And then all of a sudden, and it's happened to all of us, what I'm going to say, you notice a house on the corner and you never noticed it before because you programmed yourself just to see that grocery store, like Al says. And all of a sudden you see this house. And all of a sudden now, every time you go by, you see the same house, you know.
And it's been there for 60 years.
And it's always been there. But we all program yourself. You know, one thing that I want to, we're going to finish this now, but one thing that is very important that I have here that I just picked up, it's good. The average person, you, me, everybody, we are really mean to ourselves. It is proven psychologically that nearly 90% of the things we think about are negative. That's just the normality of being human. You have to take 3 steps. One of it is release it. Let it out. Don't dwell on that negativity. 3 minutes, give yourself 3 minutes, and then the pity party is over. Track it. Identify when you have negative thoughts. Awareness will enable reframing. And once you reframe it, once you know why you're being negative, consider that what your best friend would say to you. Then tell yourself what your best friend will tell you. You know, people, again, do the basic things. Pick up that little piece of paper, you know, listen to nice music, happy music. Al says he doesn't listen to news. Limit yourself to the news. And if you see, you know, when you hear these people talk about these horrible things that are happening in society, I actually look at them and I feel sorry for them and I laugh because this is a problem. You got a problem with this? I mean, I think of Thomas Jefferson of having 50 guests with 50 horses and the food and who's going to make it. And that's a problem.
And they didn't even call ahead.
They couldn't call ahead. they actually sent a guy, you know, like
a scout.
A scout, yeah. And you got 50 guys coming. So, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, being positive is really nice too. That's another thing. It's really nice. Al and I enjoy life. We really do. I mean, it's incredible. We go to restaurants and we're eating and we're saying, God, does this taste good? You know, because you have to appreciate everything in life. It's really phenomenal to be alive.
Absolutely. And again, going back, ending our podcast on this note, everything we just talked about, you do subconsciously when you get in your car and you drive somewhere and arrive. Everything we just talked about, you just do by faith and rote, and you get it done and you arrive and you're there and there's problems along the way, but you just keep driving. Traffic slows down, you get upset, but then it gets better, you get over it and you get to your destination. And friends, if you can take those same skills and apply them to your life, you will be exactly where you need to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Norb, wonderful insight as always. We are so grateful for you and the time you've taken to do all these podcasts for us. We really appreciate it.
No, it's a lot of fun, really.
So,
I hope it helps somebody.
That's our goal, friends. That's our only goal is to help somebody. So, friends, we hope you enjoyed the show. For Norb Svanascini, this is Al Edwards, and we will definitely see you next time. Thank you.
God bless. Okay.